Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato. Today we're going to be talking about this article in the nationalinterest.org website, and it is on the case for American-led peace in Ukraine. I don't know if there's really a case to be made, so I'm curious about what they're talking about here, because America, its entire win condition, its entire way of handling itself is to create chaos throughout the world so it can exploit the populace of the world and extract their resources. And so let's see what they say about this supposed American-led peace. Ukraine's much anticipated summer counteroffensive has all but ground to a halt. I believe they've already called it off since the writing of this article. The dozen new brigades trained by NATO have sustained huge casualties without ever reaching the first line of fixed Russian defenses and strength. Okay, yes, Russia has gained more land during this offensive than Ukraine has. And remember, these are NATO-trained and equipped units, and the average age of the Ukrainian military personnel now is over the age of 40, and they're recruiting women more and more, and they're recruiting people with disabilities, they're recruiting elderly, just everyone you can imagine is being recruited because the Ukrainian population has run out of young military-age men. So we see going on, Russian forces fighting a textbook implementation of Soviet maneuver defense frequently enjoy air superiority and are augmented by increasing number of cheap and effective weapon systems such as the Lancet drone. So I say this all the time. Things like tanks are becoming more and more ineffective, and things like cheap drones, anti-aircraft, actual aircraft, those types of things are becoming extremely, extremely important right now in modern contemporary wars. It's just, and artillery is another big one. You really don't fight like person-to-person combat overly much anymore. It's really, you just take pot shots at someone from across the battlefield and you hope they haven't moved from when you last saw them. And so if Russia's more effective at that, they end up winning the war of attrition. And that seems to be the case right now, that they're just more effective than the Western systems, the Western training when it comes to artillery, when it comes to aircraft, when it comes to drones. They're just winning across the board right now. So the article goes on to say every passing day draws closer to autumn and the dreaded Rasputista, the rain and mud season that impedes maneuver warfare. By all accounts, the Ukrainian counteroffensive is on the clock and unlikely to achieve its major objectives. Again, Russia thinks that they're going to win completely by 2025. I think that's an under-promise, and they're planning on over-delivering there, because I do think that the war is going to be over by sometime in 2024. Because especially with the Israeli situation going on, Ukraine does not exist as a country if it's not being propped up by the West, and the West is not willing to prop it up when its Zionist masters need money instead in Israel. Western armed deliveries offer little relief. Most of the pledge main battle tanks are already in the theater, and there's limited prospect for further deliveries. Again, tanks are just not that important in modern warfare right now. There's just such a proliferation of things that can destroy tank armor that you just don't want to have tanks. And we're seeing that in Israel too, where these cheap bottle rockets or whatever they are that Hamas is making is able to destroy a ton of tanks. And so you just don't want to have tanks. They're not good in urban warfare. They're not good in open field warfare. They're just not good. If you have artillery, if you have drones, if you have aircraft, those just matter so much more than a tank does. So the article goes on to say, reaching for antiques like the German Leopard 1, first introduced in 1965, won't be a game changer. The fighter jet coalition has pledged F-16s, but it's unclear when and where those will be deployed. So yeah, manufacturing capacity is extremely low in the West right now, and they just can't replace these losses, so they can't give up any more of their own equipment. In any case, they would be outmatched against an increasingly active and confident Russian Air Force and Russia's formidable integrated air defense. And they're learning how to defeat NATO equipment during this war. So they're getting very valuable intelligence that's going to help them in the larger war against the West, which it seems like Russia believes is coming. I believe is coming. I think the multipolar bloc believes that war is coming. So the article goes on to say stocks of precision weapons are shrinking, which clearly plays a role in the Biden administration's refusal to provide ATACMS missiles vital for American security in the Pacific. I believe they already provided ATACMS missiles. Given this grim outlook is a Korea scenario, the most likely outcome, this means that by the time the Ukrainian counteroffensive culminates, sometime in late August or early September, the conflict freezes at territorial borders roughly corresponding to the front line. In effect, Ukraine trades significant parts of 4 regions annexed by Russia in 2022 for robust Western security guarantees. That's not going to happen. The West is going to lose Kharkiv, however you pronounce that, Odessa. They're going to lose all of those 4 regions that have already been annexed. Russia understands that they just win in the long term here, and so they're not going to stop. Why would they stop? Their economy has grown during this war. Their people have grown more passionate, more patriotic about this war over time. Like, there's no reason they would stop at this point. This certainly wouldn't be the worst outcome from an American perspective. So America, the West, is on copium right now. If they think this is the concessions they could get from Russia, it's not going to happen. Washington would be able to gradually diffuse tensions with Moscow and reestablish a dialogue on the future trajectory of the European security architecture. Crucially, the United States will finally be able to focus once again on the Pacific. So they just want to focus. They want to pivot to China. It's, again, not going to happen. Russia's not going to allow it. Ultimately, China is a true peer rival to the United States and has been playing an aggressive diplomatic game and degrading American influence since 2022, in no small part due to the imposition of harsh sanctions on Russia. Okay, so the article says the problem with the Korea scenario, however, is that it assumes that the Russian leadership is desperate for a ceasefire negotiation, which there is zero evidence for. Not only have the Russians fought the Ukrainians to a standstill in the south, again, they're calling it a standstill, but really it's a war of attrition where Russia's just completely winning. They're decimating the opponent. The opponent's running out of people to conscript into the military, and Russia's completely fine with that. They also launched their own offensive in the north aimed at capturing the forces in the Luhansk region, where Russian troops are steadily advancing. Russian society and the economy remain relatively stable. They're actually growing far faster than most Western countries, suggesting Prigozhin's mutiny was indeed an aberration. His criticism of the war always was that it wasn't fought hard enough. In fact, the Kremlin might be eager for victory rather than desperate for negotiations. Okay, so we're seeing, we could skip ahead a little bit there. So they have new contract soldiers. Okay, so what are they saying here? Made elimination. Okay, so they're increasing the conscription age to 30 years old, noting that this would increase the pool of trained reserves that could be mobilized. He argued that this amendment to 1997 law is written for a big war and general mobilization, which, while not necessary in the immediate, would be fundamental for the future. Okay, so they are still preparing for a war with the United States, and that's exactly what I expected, because the United States wants war with Russia. They want to make sure that China has an insecure northern border, and to do that, they have to have a puppet government in Russia, and Russia obviously does not want to allow that, because last time the West had a puppet government was during the Yeltsin era, and that was horrible, where they had a ton of Zionist oligarchs who raped the population. They completely exploited it, extracted their resources. It was horrific. And again, just to reiterate, if you go back and look at the early life of the oligarchs in Yeltsin's Russia, they were Zionist, okay? They were Western. They had dual citizenship with America. They had dual citizenship with Israel. They were Zionist. They were not Russian. Critically, an additional amendment introduced a travel ban coming into force in October on anyone whose name appears on the register of both conscripts and reservists. This gives Russian authorities a legal mechanism to prevent an exodus like that of October 2022, where up to 600,000 Russian men fled the country. Sure, where'd they go? I mean, the West doesn't want them. The Russian leadership has repeatedly stated that the goals of the special military operation have not changed and will be achieved by military means. Okay, so they're including Odessa in the partitioning. They want the entire Black Sea coast, which makes complete sense because the United States has been trying to take that away from them, and they want to have access to more sea routes across the world. Okay, the article says they might be considering another partial mobilization, but I don't know if that's technically true. I mean, why would they need it? All they have to do is continue to use the Air Force, continue to use drones, continue to use artillery. They're not really losing that many people, so they don't need more mobilizations at this point. They might as well save it for the actual war with the United States. Okay. Yeah, this is ridiculous. They say the Russian dash to Kyiv in 2022 largely failed due to an overemphasis on mechanized forces over the infantry. They were just trying to threaten Kyiv in order to bring them to the negotiating table, and it sounds like Ukraine was willing to negotiate, but it was actually the United States and UK that stopped them. Okay. So that is the article here, and this article was supposed to make a persuasive case for an American-led peace in Ukraine, and I just don't see how this article actually made that case, because United States has no cards. Russia is holding all the cards when it comes to Ukraine. So there's no possibility for a Ukrainian peace. And even if there was, I don't understand why the United States would accept it at this point, because Russia's not going to accept it. The United States is not going to accept it. I mean, what would the reasoning be? This article is not overly persuasive that the United States would actually allow it. Really, if they're not able to take down Russia, which it seems like they're just not able to take down Russia, they're not willing to put enough force in that theater of this war going on right now, then their best bet is to just sink Russian resources in Ukraine for as long as possible so they can pivot to focusing on other things. If Ukraine is able to stay alive without direct United States support, while the United States is supporting Israel and Taiwan instead, then that's probably the ideal for the United States. I don't think there's enough will in the United States for an American-led peace in Ukraine. They want the neocons and neoconservatives, neoliberals, they want an ongoing conflict that sinks Russian resources into Ukraine so Russia can't focus on other regions of the world. And Russia, obviously, because they're so confident in how they're doing currently, they're not willing to concede defeat in any of the areas that are traditionally Russian-speaking areas. So just an interesting situation. And again, this article, 0 out of 10 on persuasiveness. It did not persuade me at all that an American-led peace is possible. So anyways, if you found this to be helpful, informative in any way, please leave us a thumbs up. If you found this video to be of interest and you want to see more from me, please subscribe to our channel for more content, YouTube and Rumble. And leave us a comment in the comment box below, any questions, concerns, critiques you might have. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.